and opens us up. And the first thing he says is, "How was your weekend?" Okay, we're gonna start with you, Cousin Maze, then we're gonna come back around and we're gonna introduce our special guest.
Okay. My weekend was fun. The children got out for the Thanksgiving break.
Yes.
I actually had an opportunity to attend. No, I don't. Oh, we talked about District 50, didn't we? Last week. We going to the conference? Okay.
No, I don't, just say it again.
I would tell y'all, I had a fabulous time during the break. I went to District 50 Toastmaster Conference. It was a lot of communication, leadership, event that just enhanced everything that I'm doing now. We had some wonderful keynote speakers, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful educational sessions. I actually got the Outstanding Public Relation Officer Award for District 50, which is a huge deal for me, with all my hard work and dedication. And we just had a lot of fun. We even did a little partying, but that was fun. And during the Thanksgiving holiday, I actually had an opportunity to spend time with my cousin OB and his family, and it was just, it was fun. And I also rested up and took care of, worked on my goals. I worked on some goals, and that was about it.
Right. Hey, what do you mean about it? That's more than about it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, great job, a Toastmasters. We're gonna move it on down. Now we're gonna skip over our guests, but we're gonna come back to our guests, and we're gonna have
Epic. He'll be here soon. Epic. Dr. Simone, I gotta tell you, I had a really good time this weekend with my family, crazy family, just, country and hood at the same time. But we fellowshipped and we loved on one another, and we smiled and we just loved on each other again and again. So we fill one another's cup, and I'm just really excited. Now, I did bad with my meal and what I consumed. I did really, really bad. So I got some paying to do. But I won't start that until December 1st. So I'll start up on that then. It was good.
Great. I'm glad you had a great time with your family. Families.
Yes.
We love our families.
Yes, we do.
It's a blessing just to have one. So thank you for sharing, Epic. Lady G.
Well, I really didn't do a whole lot. This was the first year that I didn't have to really do a whole lot of cooking. My uncle blessed my heart, and he just invited me over, me and my husband, so we went over there for the holidays and had a really good Thanksgiving and just relaxed. It felt good to just unwind for a minute.
Okay.
And tried not to do too much of this shopping, trying to be all in the hustle and bustle, because there was so much going on. But we did get out for a little bit and, got our grandbabies some gifts and just had a good little time. Yeah, just had a good little weekend.
Is that the uncle I know? That's
Yes,
that's
shout out to my Uncle Wes.
Uncle Wes. Putting it down.
Yes, Yolanda, yes. But he cooked and we just had a festive time.
It's just something about someone who's putting it down, man.
Oh, yes, and he does that.
Love them.
Well, I had a good weekend. I'm recouping from Washington, D.C.
You still recouping?
Yes, I am. Too much sleep. And so I had a great week. I just counted all the days I was off work. It was really nice being off that many days. But anyway, I didn't do much. I spent time with family on Thanksgiving. Right. My sister does all the cooking, and I baked a couple of cakes or whatever. They know I don't cook. My family's watching now. They know I can cook, but I don't cook. They know me already. And I spent time. My daughter came home. We had a great time in college. We had a great time. And I got a chance to clean out my garage. Nice. And my daughter came home. She's like, "Mom, what's going on here?" And she didn't even know because the garage was so doggone clean. So that was the messiest part of my house. That was the messiest part of my house. So I got it cleaned, and I'm just thankful for that. And got plenty of rest, just enjoying family and friends. And having family over for the weekend. It was just a blessed week. That's all I can say. It was a weekend of thankfulness. So Cousin Maze, you have our topic tonight, and I want you to introduce our special guest. I've heard some incredible things about these two young people here, okay? And so I know they're going to blow it out the water for us tonight, and I can't wait to hear what they have to say on the topic that we have. So
Dr. Simone.
Okay.
For our Facebook family, tonight we have a wonderful topic, and it's about reaching our youth. How can we connect to them more? And we actually have special guests right here in the studios. We have Dr. Johnson, who is the CEO of the Community Step Up program. And we also have Ms. Charlene Barrows, who is also a board member with the program as well. And they're going to talk a little bit about the program, some resources, and just all kinds of great things so we can share it with you guys in the community and just better to help the youth. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you today?
I'm good.
Great, great. You know what? This is like being on The View.
The View.
I feel great here today. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes. Community Step Up. My name is Brother Dave Johnson. I started this program probably about 3.5 years ago, and have learned so much about dealing with our children because I watched the program evolve and kind of develop around the needs of our youth today. Mm-hmm. And so I found some very unique ways of reaching our children because you really have to know who you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. You know, whether you're dealing with a millennium, whether you're dealing with a Generation X, if you're dealing with someone's baby boomers that think we kids, you know,
That's all right.
there's unique skills that you have to deal with to be effective and have an impact with them. Mm-hmm. And so you got to know exactly which generation you're dealing with.
Okay.
So we'll be talking about that.
Okay. Sounds good.
And I come to you from an education background. I was a classroom teacher for 22 years, and I was central staff.
Yes.
And consequently, I look at some things that are going on in the world today and know that children need social emotional learning. And so we're adding social emotional components so people know self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills so they don't get in trouble with the wrong people, and responsible decision making. And in addition, as an educator, I'm doing a reading and a writing connection because writers are good readers. And so we read and write so that we have great speeches that we can deliver.
Awesome.
Well, welcome. To
the
view, to the conversation.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask Mr. Johnson or Mrs. Barrows, I wanted to ask, what age group do you particular target?
Our target is 3rd grade through 12th grade. The younger children need to build that self-confidence. Older children also need the self-confidence, and they need that relationship building, and they need self-management, self-awareness. So that's where we're focusing.
Good. I also wanted to know, where do you get the referrals? I'm assuming you get referrals, or how do you collect your children to be in this program? Are they from the schools? Are they at risk? Do you get them from the juvenile detention center? Where do these children come in from?
We recruit kids basically from almost anywhere. We go into their communities, whether it be in their community centers. We also have some ministers that have had us to come in and work with some of the kids in places that they are doing mentoring with kids. We've rented a community center and done it in a community center and had people come in from there. We've had a variety of groups from, as we kind of labeled it or marketed, English as a second language. We had 19 kids from India, 18 kids from China, and a couple of kids from Africa. So we had a group with them a summer or so ago. And so it's a learning experience for everybody to watch the difference in how different cultures relate to the English language and how to present it.
That's really interesting. Do any of our co-hosts have some questions or would like to make any
I'm fine right now, but it's interesting what you're saying about the different culture of children. So when they come together themselves, so they learn about each other's culture while you're working with them, or do you guys like put emphasis on different things that you work with them in regards to whatever their culture is? For instance, if you have children from Nigeria, do you guys do something around that specific child's culture? The other students would know, the other children would know.
The other participants.
Right.
It's basically kind of open forum in that the first phase of the step is a stand up. So what we ask to do is begin to examine themselves. As Charlene spoke about earlier, we have a social and emotional part. So whatever trials, tribulations they've had in the past, whether they come from single parent homes, if they first generation this, whatever, we have them to examine that and do a skit or a play around that, a speech around that, which has to have a positive consequence. So with the positive consequence, if we take it into another community, into a recreation center or something like that, there may be a child in that community that doesn't know that there's an alternative to their behavior.
Exactly.
And so they can hear it again from what we all know. They learn from each other much quicker than they do from us.
Exactly. I'm glad to hear you say that because for years I've been an educator, I've been a teacher, administrator, and it's amazing when with kids, first of all, people talk about kids not being good. They talk about kids being bad. I think that's problem number one.
Yeah.
When you say something, you speak negative words of the children, that's what you're going to get. And I've always felt that it's not that children are bad, it's that sometimes they just don't know. And, I remember days years ago, teachers, they would bring a kid to the office and they wouldn't tolerate something that the child was doing, but not understanding that the child just didn't understand that this is the way that this is an appropriate way to do something. So you guys, what you're doing is you're building those communication skills, that effective part with that social emotional learning. That is such a big thing today that I think that we miss so much of, because I'm glad that you guys are doing that work, because some kids are just not getting it. Some are not getting it at home, and it used to be generations ago, like I'm almost baby boom. Okay, Generation X, but it used to be we had the sense of community. We had our family, we had the neighborhood, we had the churches, and now children as a whole, a lot of people have turned away from the church, and children, you had to go to BTU, you had to go to Sunday school, you had to be in church and learn how to sit in church, and they don't have those skills, and it's spilled off to things, and they don't know how to act appropriately. So what you guys are doing is really tapping into those different domains that you talked about, and it's really empowering the students. I'm happy to hear about that. But I know you have SEL all over, so I'm quite sure you have some other words to say about it as Mr. Johnson.
Well, you are absolutely right. The community and even, I'm going to say the country, had different kind of values, and they were promoted on television, radio, books, wherever you saw. And that's not necessarily the same.
Right.
So people don't necessarily learn self-management, like you pointed out. All parents aren't teaching self-management. And sometimes it's school's responsibility to teach self-management. And where the school can't be or pick it up, we can try to pick that up as well. So looking at all those things and helping them grow emotionally so that they fit in well within the world, I think that's one really good thing about our program. We try to close that gap.
That's good. That's good. And first of all, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, I want to first just applaud you guys for. Let's give it up for them.
You need to do a round of applause.
Right. For all the work, because having a heart to work and give to children, that's just what it is, And that's, I heard you guys speak about internationally and working with a diverse population. How do you, and what do you see in your experience? What do you see in terms of our urbanized youth and what their particular needs might be? And that's one for Ms. Johnson. Then the other one is like, what do you think as a community, how can we fill in that gap for our single parent households?
Yeah.
So whichever one of you guys want to take that, that'd be great.
Before I said, thank you for making her Miss Johnson. I love that.
Mr. Johnson.
Is there a Miss Johnson?
No, there's not.
Oh, okay.
That's a whole other show.
Hey, I'm from my knowledge of her,
Yes.
there could not be a better one.
Hey, that's good.
You might be got something started, man.
Oh, live, doing that live, too. You go ahead, Brother Johnson. You go ahead, Brother Johnson.
Ethics making this a dating show.
I
Okay, we're
I
gonna
like
gonna
that.
gather ourselves and get back on topic.
Okay. So this is very unique. One of the things that I noticed that when we first started, especially working with diverse populations, that when we had foreigners, the Chinese, the Indian, and African communities, we also had to have a section for the parents to be there because they supported them they were right there, and they participated in giving you knowledge about the kids, giving you knowledge about the culture, and things like that. When we started working with the American kids, I had to threaten them with the police to get back on time. You know, they would just drop them off and say, you know, oh, I'm sorry, traffic was heavy, this or that. So what I'm saying is, the foreigners from other ethnic groups, they participated with their children, they supported. So whatever their children learned, they learned also, and they were able to support what we were doing. With the Americans, and especially when we talk about inner city kids, basically they had to get theirs on their own, and so the needs for them a lot of times were a little more, just a little more in depth because they didn't have that support from home. That if the parents heard what we taught them, how to use body language, how to use vocal variety, the different skills that you have in public speaking, they had to do that, and they didn't have anywhere to practice it. Where a lot of the foreigners had family members and other members within their community, because see, they came out in a community. And they supported each other, and they were very close knit. They were not only in our group together; many of them were cheerleaders together. They went to school together. So it was, as we talked about earlier in our upbringing, a community. And they don't have that community today. Or what's in the community, a lot of times are some very negative qualities.
Exactly.
I want to add that when we get together and have board member meetings, we talk about how we can bring in parents from the inner city. What are some of the things that we can do to make them actually want to stay and participate? As an educator, I know food almost always works.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
That's been working, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one thing we're going to try to add to our program. So it's not just you just sit and watch. Maybe you can eat afterward or you can eat before. Something that's a hook for the parents as well.
Okay, I would like to ask our viewing audience to maybe join in with us. I see one of my best friends online, my mom. I see Terry, Marilyn, Thaddeus, just like her cousin, all these special people that I know. You guys don't hesitate to call in. And I, just like she's talking about, let me make sure I have your name.
Charlene.
Last
Charlene
name.
Burrows.
Barrows, not Johnson.
Not
Barrows.
Johnson.
Okay. Miss Barrows, she made a good point. We talk about things to get a hook that can kind of draw in students, right, or children. So I want to ask our listeners if they will call in at 972-882-6146, 972-882-6146. And if you have questions to ask Mr. Johnson or Ms. Barris, okay, please call in, and they're going to be here to answer your questions. Now, you may want to contribute to what Ms. Barris just said about something to hook students or hook children with. So we would like to hear that too. So if someone would call in, please, 972-882-6146. And so I'm going to let you finish that thought unless someone, Lady Jean,
I
did you
just
have
wanted
something?
to ask, is this like an after-school program?
It's a Saturday program.
Oh, okay, just for the weekends,
Yes.
okay.
So when you think about a typical Saturday, when you guys are working with the students that you work with, I keep saying students because I'm an educator.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. What does a typical Saturday look like? If both of you guys can tell us about what your program looks like. When we walk in, or when a child walks
It depends on the venue that we're using at that time. We've had one on, I always call it like, is it Oak Cliff?
Okay.
Okay, so in the Oak Cliff area, it was a large community, and there was a pastor that had a Saturday church, and he just kind of brought the community together, and he would do some preaching, they would feed them. And when we were there, we just kind of brought them in and began to give them the basic principles of speaking. Very difficult population to work with because you got a lot of kids who are ADHD, so it's hard to keep that population together. Even if you offer them food, they would sit in a group and eat cherries or whatever it was they were eating, which made it also even a little more disruptive. Now, when we had the group out in Plano, where we had it at the community center, not in Plano, in Allen, at that community center, they came in, they set up the tables. They participated in being parts. Each one took a position in conducting the group. One would be an hour counter and count the hours that they use. One would time them. The speeches had to be between this time and that time. They actually ran their program, so that was more of the what I want to say foreigners group, where they really took part in it. So when you say, what does a typical group look like? It looks like the community that they come out of.
And let me just add as well.
Can we take
I'm gonna-
Sure, let's take a call.
We actually have Anitra on the call.
Hi, Anitra.
Hi, Charlene.
Oh, man.
Do you have a question or want to make a comment?
Okay, yes, I do. This is very interesting. I love both David Johnson and Charlene Johnson. Charlene my Toastmasters days. And my comment is I heard what Miss Charlene said about what is the hook, and I'm speaking from the perspective of a single parent, okay? I am a single parent of one young man, and I think from my perspective, the hook would be to figure out how I could just have one job. Being a parent who works all the time to support and be both mother and father for my son, it was difficult for me to find time to attend events with him. So if you're having something on Saturdays for young people, a lot of times that's the only time some of us single parents have to do our chores or to, run errands. So what are your thoughts and perspectives on figuring out a way to have it at a time where a single parent who works a lot can really be involved and really to communicate with them the importance of them also being there to be with their child?
That is a strong question.
Great question.
One job. I think one thing that you can do, and we tried to do it with that group in Allen, was our meetings were in the afternoon. It wasn't always convenient for me to be there in the afternoon from, say, 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. But that gives a parent time to do the things early in the morning that they need to do, whether it's cleaning, grocery shopping, maybe getting the meal ready for Sunday. But that's helpful, and then the parent could actually come and participate with the child because they've done most of their chores. Now, does that work for you, Anitra?
2 to 4? On what day is that? Like on a Saturday?
Saturday?
Let me say this, Anitra, that I think that's a commitment that the parent has to have. That's got to be their commitment. And when we're not talking about an all-day event, we're talking about, at the most, we try to keep them 45 minutes to an hour. We don't keep them no more than that. So if it was something we were doing ongoing, but if their child was in ballet, if they were in band class, if they were a cheerleader, they would find a way to get them there. I remember one lady that I was
okay. Get them there was not the issue. You're saying for the parents to stay as well.
Yes, for an hour.
Right.
Hour and a half at the most.
Okay. Have you, sent information home to the parents? We would like for you to stay as well. Because a lot of times, parents think, and there have been some events where I just have to take my son, and I'm not asked to stay, for instance, basketball practice. Right, parents can't go to basketball practice. So I would drop them off and go do what I need to do and come back. Now, if you send me something that says You're welcome to stay. We would love for you to stay or have an event that said, come and see the results of your child's 6 weeks in training. Have you thought about anything like that?
I have, but I got a question. When have you ever dropped Michael off somewhere and left him? You ain't never left him. They used to call you Miss Basketball because you would be in every game
I
all
used
day
to try
long.
to get you to babysit him because I had things to do.
Yeah, but you know what? Like I was going to say about, yeah, that's a great idea, and that's something we can incorporate in there as having the parents to participate and let them know that they're welcome.
Yes.
Many times, as you say, parents have things to do or they have all other alternatives. I know one lady, we charged, at that time we were charging a fee of $30 for 8 weeks, which I thought was very inexpensive, for the skills that they develop. And this one lady said, oh, that's too much. And I said, ma'am, that's too much. And I said, ma'am, one of us got our priorities wrong. And it might be me, but it might be you. Because I'm looking at your son, and he got a pair of $300 gym shoes on, but you afforded them gym shoes, but you can't afford 8 weeks for him to learn how to do some speaking. And so that told me that somewhere the priorities were kind of off. And what we try to do is get parents engaged so that this becomes important to their children and to them also, that their children get this type of experience. And it's been proven that it really makes a difference. And first of all, if a child learns how to speak, he'll learn how to write his papers differently in school, and his self-esteem is built up because now he's able to show the classroom, I got A's or B's for what I just wrote. So his self-esteem and gets him more involved in school. It's like the parents have to get him. I mean, you have to make room for it.
Well, but I also think, and forgive me if I'm taking up time for other callers.
No,
but
you're good.
I also think I like what you said about it, but I think it's more a matter of perspective. Because let me say two things. One thing, you ain't never seen my son with no $300 shoes. Let me just say that.
But I have seen you at every game that he goes to.
No, be quiet. No, he doesn't.
Yeah, right.
Number two, and this just happened to me yesterday. I was with my son. We were running through Kroger. We were together, and when we got in the car, he asked me, he said, "Mom, did you see that little boy begging his daddy to take him to Barnes and Noble because he wanted a book?" And his daddy said he didn't have time. My son looked at me. Did he not understand how important it is that if his child wants to read, stop and take time and take him so he can get the tools, because that's going to benefit him later in life. So I think it's a matter, not me, but, perspective. How do we shift and change working parents who don't feel this is important for their children, who maybe don't understand about the importance of communication skills? How do we reach them and let them know this is important? Maybe you don't understand it, but let us help you also understand. You can also do this yourself. You can get in a Toastmasters club.
All right. Well, thank you, Anitra, for calling in. Mr. Johnson, can you finish up her question for her? But, Anitra, we thank you so much for calling in with your question, okay?
Thank you. You guys have a good one.
All right, Anitra, good to hear from you.
Anitra was the IT person for Community Step Up. She's calling from Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so the question she's talking about, how do we get those?
How do we get the parents? That's a very interesting subject because it's a touchy place. We all understand the responsibilities of a parent, but also there are times when I need some me time. And if I work 5 days a week and I only got 1 day to myself, we trying to get as much time in as we can. I come from a man's point of view. Men discipline, women nurture. My thing is that you have to find a way if your child is important to you. How many times have we done things for our children, those of who have children, that we didn't have time for, we didn't feel like doing, we went without because our kids needed. You reach down inside and you pull it up out of it. That's where it comes from.
And I want to make a comment too. We talked about the $300 pair of shoes. It's not about a pair, the cost of what we can give kids, things that are tangible that we can see, like clothing, shoes. It's something that's intangible more than what they receive. And so a lot of times I think that we put emphasis on things that, like putting shoes on a kid's feet, but not thinking about what you're putting in his mind. And that's something, we talk about the state of children, but it doesn't start with children, it starts with us. And so what do we want to prioritize? We want our child to look the best in the neighborhood, or look the best going to school. We want kids to look good, but there's nothing wrong with putting nice things on your children, but what are you putting inside of them is what I'm trying to point out. I mean, if you can afford a $300 pair of Jordans, go for it. But what are you putting inside of your child that I think makes it?
Let me say this before you go.
We got another caller. Would you just hold that thought here? All right, next caller.
Yes, sir.
All right, this is Mr. Lewis. And Mr. Lewis, you've been hearing some of our guests speaking here, but tell us, what do you think some of the things that our youth may need, whether it's skills or the importance of support or network, parenting tips? We would like to hear what you had to say a little bit.
Okay. Sure. That's a ask. But I do think that first and foremost, that I think is best summarized by an acronym called DADDY. So the first word would be around devotion. They really need to have a spiritual life. Whatever walk that they have, they need to have a spiritual life to guide their steps and walks and beliefs. I really think that it enables them to have a roadmap that has been proven for centuries. So I think that's first. And I think our youth should also focus on achievement. And what I mean by that is that you need to have a plan, goals, dreams, and you can measure your success by. And when you have goals and dreams, and particularly a plan to guide you, it's much easier for you to stay focused on a path and not be move away from that direction and dream that you have. So I think it's real critical to have a focus on achievement. The other word I would throw in there would be dedication. It's an old word, but it really means accountability. What is it that you're committed to, and how does that define you? So if I'm committed to doing a task for a family member, a friend, or I'm committed to a new job, commitment means that I'm going to, whatever I say to do, I'm going to do. I'm going to be truly dedicated to that, regardless of what may be going on in my particular life or someone else's. So when you combine devotion, your spiritual walk, you think about achievement, your goals and dreams, and a plan to execute them, and you have dedication, unwavering commitment to your word. So when someone says that you're going to do something, they know without a doubt that you're going to be committed to do that. I think those are important. I think the fourth word in the acronym of DADDY is determination. Sometimes tasks seem like they're not achievable. Goals may seem like they're not achievable. Everything that happened can be bad to you that day, and say, that's enough. I don't want to do it. But determination that's when that word really kicks in. It is the thing that allows you to say, I'm going to get it done no matter what. Despite the obstacles, despite what folks might say, haters, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to overcome.
There will be haters, right?
Yeah.
There will be haters.
Yeah.
There are going to be those. They're going to come. And some of them may be your best friend or family member on a particular thing, and that's okay. Your goal with determination is to know that you have to overcome that. And that's just a part of life. So you think about devotion, you think about achievement, you think about the dedication, you think about determination, then it's also about balance. And I call it youthfulness. So you think of the acronym DAD, youthfulness is the other piece. And that's the balance. You got to have fun. Life is very short. And so the ability to be able to celebrate with yourself, with your friends, with your family along the way is so important. And so when you think about life tips, parenting tips, or things that the folks, I believe, skills of being successful young adults, I think if you take those words and you step back and understand even with those acronyms to drive who you are, you always need to be able to think critically. You need to be able to look at, read something, see something on television, hear a conversation. You need to always be able to question those. Is that fact or is that hearsay?
Right, right. So, man, Mr. Lewis, we want to thank you for calling in and sharing, man. Those are golden nuggets you shared there. Especially on this show is called The Conversation, and you definitely added to it. And I appreciate your work. All right, we want to thank you very much for calling in and joining us tonight.
Have a good evening.
You too.
OB.
How's everyone doing?
Good to see you.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Talk about your weekend. I know you missed the weekend segment, so how was your weekend?
My weekend was wonderful. I mean, Thanksgiving. First of all, how y'all doing today? I'm Marvin O'Brien. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, Mr. Bryant.
My Lotus, and team, Lady G. Cousin Mays, Epic. Dr. Simone, I had a wonderful weekend. I mean, that's probably the best Thanksgiving I've had in a long time, that I really just enjoyed family. I got a chance to barbecue where the wife and everybody was in there cooking.
On Facebook.
Yeah, man, I said, I'm going to do something
With
different.
3 grills.
3 grills, bro. Yeah. Had a great time, and food turned out great. So,
Good.
but other than that, I'm catching in on the topics here, and definitely about how to reach, how can we reach our teen. I want to put it from a man's standpoint, from my standpoint. I've come from a single parent home. I would like to add to that my 2 cents in. Dr. Simone's book is basically about domestic violence and stuff like that. If that man is not in the home, the son, the male, and the daughter doesn't have a guideline, a strong guideline. There has to be some fear in the house, because I've seen teenagers, even me. Me and my mom had an altercation when I was 17. She still wanted to whoop me. I said, "No, Mama, I really, I just, I think I'm too old for that." And I don't have a regular mom. I have what you call a mama man, a mama daddy. So when she see that you're not gonna take this, she put all that down. Okay, let's go with this then. So I had to grab my mom.
That sounds familiar, Solomon. I'm listening to my brother. I'm saying that to my brother.
I mean, she had a belt, and I'm saying, "Mama, I'm 17." She's like, as long as you're in my house, this is what's gonna happen. I said, "Well, Mama, I'm gonna have to go then on you." She said, "No, you ain't going nowhere." And she went got a broom and came, she put the belt down and got a broom, and I know she might be listening now, but she hit me and I blocked the broom. It broke, and so I grabbed her and I just stood behind and held her like this, and she bit me. And she got good teeth too now. They wasn't dentures, but she bit me so far till her teeth met in my skin, and I didn't even feel it no more. Just numbed me like that. So then she said, "Let me go." I said, "Mama," because I knew she gonna kill me then. I know she had a pistol or what. I said, "Mama, hold on. I can't just let you go. I got to get you to the door. I can get out of here." But make a long story, she went and got my granddaddy. But anyway, my point is, there came a point that I didn't fear my mom anymore. I felt that I was my mom. I'm the man of this house now, and I'm gonna get to it when I'm gonna get it. But I'm gonna get to it in a minute. She wasn't that minute type of mom. So my point is, the young men, as far as domestic violence, I want to add on to that Dr. Simone book and everything. A lot of men hit women because they saw it at home first, and a lot of women in a younger relationship don't know how to discuss a problem in private. See, I was raised by my great-grandmother, my mom's mom. Whenever her and my granddaddy had a problem, they went inside and closed the door. Well, these teenagers now, the younger generation in the relationships or marriages, they talk out loud when family's there. And the man, where we come from, where I'm from, a woman is not supposed to overshine her man or her husband in front of people or just embarrass. He's not going to let that happen, and he's going to retaliate. you know, and it can be crazy, you know. So I think when you see a great father in a home that's teach, I didn't know how to, my uncles basically taught me, I didn't know how to treat a girlfriend. You know, I didn't know about the opening of the doors other than seeing my uncle and them do it. So I think if a young man never see a man treat his mom right, he'll never know how to basically, or he might learn, but it's too far up the road. He might miss out on so many good, like opening doors or, you know, buying nice things. I didn't get to see that, but I saw my granddad and my uncles and them do it, you know. Birthday, they would give my grandma my granddad would give my grandma $500 right there. I mean, wow. And my uncle would open doors and Mama, what kind of Valentine candy? Mama, pick me up some Valentine candy so I can give it to my girlfriend. And I was like, okay. And then cologne put on. So I just think that man out of the house has so much to do with domestic violence and everything. That it's just important that that man be in these teenagers' life. Look, girls as well. Our girls are, y'all excuse me women for saying this, when I was coming along, I was considered mannish. Y'all probably not old enough to know that. I was considered mannish.
Not you.
But
Not you.
I'm 50 now, and I'm not proud of my mannishness. But
Proud of my mannish.
But the women, the tables have turned. The women are more managed than the boys are now in this day and time. That's what I see. I mean, so that's my intake on these children. Now, what can we do to reach them? I really want to know. I'm really here to learn and listen because it's a journey. I think. What's your name, sir? What's your name?
Brother Dave. Just
Brother
everybody
Dave.
call me Brother Dave.
Brother
Yes.
Dave. I think you're young enough to know what I'm saying. If you keep a dog tied up to a tree, and he ever get a chance to break loose, you out of here. So I look at kids like that. If you never train them while they're at home, they gonna get out of there because what you got going here, they say, hey, I need you to turn that phone. Like my sister, we had to be off the phone at 9 o'clock. Wasn't no 10 o'clock. Ain't nobody talking. My granddaddy didn't talk at 9 o'clock. If you call our house out to 10 o'clock, somebody just passed away or had a car wreck or something. Because that phone just didn't ring after 10 o'clock. But now, you can tell these kids now, get off that phone. Well, they'll get off the phone, but they'll still text in the dark. I seen my niece and them do it. I tell her, you walk in on like, you want to say what your daddy just tell you. He's like, I'm not on the phone. I'm texting. Oh, my grandma will wear you out right now. She, so it's just, it's hard to it's hard to get that if you don't got that structure of how a woman is supposed to be, and you let these young ladies dress like mom, and mama make friends with these young ladies, be their friends, and letting them put makeup. My little niece was over Thanksgiving. She's 13, and she spent more time in the bathroom putting makeup on. Now, last year she didn't wear makeup, but I'm laying in the bed, I'm just watching through the door. Dark lipstick on, powder in the face, and then pinning her braids up, all this stuff. And I said to myself, well, where we going?
Yeah, I like what you're saying there, OB, because where we're going, it needs to be really a call for action. I remember when, like you said, you had your uncles, and there were men there to help model that. We had that just shows in the African American community how desperately we need mentors. And mentors is like a statement that's said nowadays that it's just catching fire everywhere. It's more fire, smoke, and mirrors than it actually is happening. And so, I look for a day. We had, years ago, there was a 1,000,000 Man march. But I would like to see a 1,000,000 Man mentor. 1,000,000 Man mentors where we can gather men. Because from the march, what's happening from the march? When you return back to your communities, what are you contributing? And so that's my thing. I like to see each one reach one. Let someone join someone else up and contribute. You had someone else there for you. Because otherwise, they're going to be adopted within the street, the gangs. And then you got these, now some people will quote and unquote call them urban terrorists.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You got people who are run amok, and we see the signs in the schools. we see the, if it's high referral rates, we see a lot of disciplinary infractions, and we see those signs. Well, teachers, counselors, everyone need to be reaching out to the community, but when they reach out, is it an echo or is it a voice? What are they hearing back? Are they hearing the voice, here I am? So but we got people not raising their own children.
Wow.
And missing, so that's why the error is perpetuating.
Right.
So we need some people to step up.
And I think you made a good point, Epic, and I was looking at some comments, and it says, Keandria, I think is her name, Walker, she says, even as an adult, I have a mentor.
No doubt.
Think about that.
We all need one. We need
I do
one.
too.
We all need one.
Mine are right in here. I got it right here every Monday night.
But she made a great point, even as an adult,
Yes.
she has a mentor. So what makes us think that children or youth do not need mentors?
But our youth do have a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
They got a mentor. It's not the right mentor,
Gotcha.
right?
true.
So they're hearing the voices
Good and
of
bad.
those. Like when we were coming up, I think I'm the youngest one in this
I
room.
know that.
But see, when I came up, even when what we say we were in the streets, we had mentors there.
That's
If we had a problem, if me and the brother here had a problem, them mentors say, y'all two go in the back and settle that.
Yeah.
Right?
Got that over
Right.
with.
Later on that
right.
night, we sitting somewhere doo-wop and drinking wine.
That's
There you go.
right.
That's
Right?
That's
See, they gave us
What
that,
kind
but
was
they
that
don't.
you were
But
drinking?
huh?
What were you drinking?
Boom for Wild Irish Rose. But listen, what I'm saying, they do have mentors, right? It's not the appropriate mentors, but it's mentors for the style of life that
That's right.
they considered having, right? Now, let's look at, and just a little bit about my background. I ran for about 27 years, I ran a inpatient rehab in the state of New York. About 16 years downstate in New York City, another about 14 years, 13 years upstate in Rochester. The men that I worked with there, what I noticed is they had mentors, but it was the wrong mentors, right? It was their buddies who was just as in bad shape as they were, and they were hearing their voices. You know, there's a movie that I love to watch, and it's The Last Samurai. I've seen it probably about 100 times, and this is one thing when the leader of the samurais went to the new emperor and said he didn't hear my voice. He heard the voice of those in the room who were telling them something different. Well, that's what our young men are doing. They're hearing the voices of somebody telling them something different and contrary to what we're doing. Now, what we do with Community Step Up is that we begin to teach them in different language. So we use speaking as a different language. Once you learn to speak differently, it forces your brain to do something different. Right? It forces a different behavior. What we try to do is get them to attach a new behavior to some old thoughts. Right? And that's what we do. When we start talking about the social emotional part of our program, we're teaching them new ways to respond. And that's why we have them do what happened to you, but give me something positive, how it ended. And then when you get to that part, now you can see, oh, that's something I can do differently. Do you want people to respond to you differently? Do you want your mom, your single parent mom, to respond to you differently? Do you want your teachers to respond to you differently? Then you got to do something different when they take you off.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So that's kind of where we're so different from other speaking programs, is that we get into where they're at, you know, and we got to know exactly who we do. Are we dealing with millennials or are we dealing with Generation X's? Because each one of them respond differently.
Yeah.
And so we can't teach our kids like they taught me, right? They can't, I'm just an OG. I ain't even all right, but we got to start teaching them so that they can hear our voice. The millennials nor the Generation X's can hear our voices because they speak a different language from us. We got to start speaking their language to get them over to us.
That's right.
Right? What they, you know, the Bible says, bring up a child in the way it's supposed to go. Because it already knows it's going to stray off.
Right.
You know, he know he's going to have to hold his mama one day and she's going to bite him and all that other stuff. They already know that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So let's bring him up, because you know what he did know? Because some of these younger kids now would not have taken the route that he took. Them and the mama had to put him in jail. That's right. You know, but because he's been brought up a certain way, he knows the way to go. Let me get to some safety where I can get out of her range. It's instilled in him.
That's right.
But that's not instilled in our kids. Our kids, you know, if I got a problem, me and his brother got a problem here, I go talk to him. He ain't know he just as crazy as I am, man. You know,
Right,
so and so.
right.
Here, man, go take care of him. Right? That's what they're being taught. We need to be taught. They need to be. He need to go have some man that he can go to.
That's
See,
right.
we were raised by the village.
Yeah.
You know, I know we didn't have a phone. I came up in the projects in Ohio, and we didn't have a phone. And I went to the old projects, and when I got in trouble over there, before I could get home, everybody along the way was smacking me upside the head
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
knew what I had done
Oh,
on the other side of the town.
Exactly.
You know, and it's a communication we have in our program, and I mean our communities. So in our communities, if we're talking about dealing with our children today, we got to learn not just the language we have, but we got to learn their language and bring them over to our language.
And see, I like what he's saying, because even as you're developing those skills, let's say the parents start coming in and sitting in there, that's going to make the world a difference, because that's one showing commitment, a different level of commitment. What's happening is it's very difficult to teach skills and then have them immersed in that same environment. That's why it's important that that mentor starts to reinforce that thing, whatever that is. As a coach, I could teach a kid to proper form of shooting all day long. If he go out there and hoop with his boys and he forget all of that we learn in our sessions, he's putting more time in that habit. Let me put a different reference. Let's go if I'm trying to learn Spanish, if I can be teaching, but if I'm immersed in Mexico, I'm going to pick up that thing quicker because my environment. Well, it's too many times that our teachers and everyone's calling out, but they're hearing, they're hearing an echo when they should hear a voice on the other side. They really need to be able to have someone there that, hey, I'm here present. And that's why I'm going to keep on calling out until we get like the million men mentor. That ain't too much.
Right.
No. Nothing too big for God. You know, we need a lot of people coming in and being able to be that safety net. Because right now, what do we have? Our mentors is the media. And the media is also showing conflict between man and woman. Look at how much, look at all these shows, man. Everything that we're seeing our kids are tied into is showing conflict between a man and a woman.
Housewives of Atlanta.
Right. All that's conflict. And they get
Hip-hop.
more ratings.
Love and hip hop.
Love and hip hop.
Power.
Power. What else?
Scandal.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's how our kids are being taught today.
Right.
You know, and that's that's basically what I'm saying is that we're going to, you know, I truly believe that language will kind of present a culture. You can tell by the way a person talks as to what culture they actually come from. Right? And so, you know, it don't take a whole lot.
Right.
And one of the things that the men that I dealt with in New York, they would always say, Dave, someone would tell you, I came from a good family, man, but when I got away from that good family, I didn't have nobody to support me and bring me back over there. So the thing is, when we start talking about how do we change our children, what we're doing in Community Step Up today is we're going to a younger generation. Let's start them there. Not that we've lost these, but we got to start somewhere with bringing them up. So we've got a couple of programs that will be coming out the first of next year that will allow us to start like reading to our kids. You know, our kids, some of them don't know how to read. You know, so when we start talking about preschool and under, first grade, kindergarten and under, we want to start getting people reading with the kids. So we want to start a program. One reason games exist because I can go anywhere in this country as a crib and find another crib and be okay. How many of our kids can find another reader and be okay? How many people can find another can say, let's just go to the movies. Let's don't be strapped everywhere we go. They don't have them. We need, if we're really going to make a difference, we need to start putting people's children in place to be able to go and start communities where these kids are safe in being who they are today. Because if I'm what they call them what they square or they this or they that. Now, if they don't have a community goal, when in Rome you do as the Romans do. You know, and so we need to, if we're going to start, not that generation is lost. Everybody won't keep saying that generation is lost, but for real, the lost generation is the one before them.
Yeah.
They can pass it back.
There you go. You're so right. So true.
We want to
Go ahead. Epic.
Yeah, we have another caller coming in, Dave. This time it's a police officer, and he's going to share with us some ideas and tips that our youth can do as it relates to addressing the police. And so, Mr. Dotson, will you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, sir?
Sure. What's going on, Coach Miles? How you doing?
Right. Pretty good, pretty good.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here. Thank you guys for having me on. I was a 7.5-year Dallas police officer. Now I'm a UNT Dallas police officer. I come from a family of police officers as well. And I hope that today, whatever questions you guys may have, if you have some questions, I can answer them. If not, I can just kind of let you know some things that I'm seeing in the community and whatnot, or you guys can, however you want to do it. You tell me how you want to flow this thing.
Okay, well, we can shoot some questions at you then from our youth. So, just general question, what are you seeing the disconnect between, we see a lot of violence on television and on social media and all of that. What are you seeing that some skills that our youth might need? Do you see some diversity issues? What are you seeing out there that can be able to safeguard our youth and share some tips?
For sure. So you said it best. Number one, you have to address the issue from two sides, right? So of course there's an issue from the police side. Typically, when recruiting takes place, in my opinion, I think we recruit from. Police departments recruit from rural areas sometimes, and then send them into urban communities where, if somebody is not from an environment, what is, poverty may look like criminal behavior to them, but it's really just impoverished. You know what I mean? And so they may not understand the dynamic of the area. So I think that's an issue. I also think that from the other side, from the citizen side, I think there's some educating that can take place from actual police practice and policy that can take place. So you'll know what's really going on when you do encounter a police officer. So, for example, I think that there's two common times when people will engage the police. Number one, let's just kind of break it down into two categories. Let's say cop initiated encounter, and then let's say a citizen initiated encounter. Let's say that the cop initiated encounter is like a traffic stop or a pedestrian stop. That's when that officer has reasonable suspicion or probable cause to actually engage that citizen. And then, of course, the citizen initiated encounter is when there's an emergency or there is a call for service. One of the things that I've noticed when the citizens may encounter or call for police service, they think that the officer knows all the facts before he gets there, and it's not the case. It's not the case. When officers pull up, they have no idea what's going on.
Totally in the blind.
So typically, if things are out of order, you have to realize the whole reason why that the police were called in the first place is because the citizens have, in a sense, lost control of the situation. So when the officers get there, the very first thing that an officer wants to do, and really in essence needs to do, is gain order. He has to gain order so that he can now be able to ask the proper questions. But typically what happens in our communities, because we are very passionate people, I'm a very passionate person myself, we want to make sure that we're telling our side of the story. And what I try to help people understand is there's a perfect time for you to do that, and it's not necessarily when that officer first gets there. I think that we should start letting the officers gain control of the situation and then articulate what we need to say instead of yelling on, because what happens is you're basically adding to the chaos that officer is already feeling because he doesn't know. Let me give you guys an example. When police are called, sometimes the caller may give terrible. I mean, he or she may call and say, "Hey, it's a man outside with a gun. He has on a red shirt and flip-flops." Right? And then when the officers get there, running code 3 to get there and find out that he didn't, in essence, have a gun. He had a water sprinkler in his hand, and he was wearing a blue shirt and jeans. You know what I mean? It's right. Like, this literally happens to officers every day. So you have to understand that officers typically are trained now to get the facts, but we have to gain the order first, if that makes any sense to you guys. Right. Then from the cop-initiated encounter, and this is just a fact, what people are mostly upset about is when they think there is an abuse of power, racism, profiling, and implicit bias, those things like that. It causes the citizen to be frustrated with that cop-initiated encounter. Why did you pull me over? You have to understand that most officers, they're pulling you over because they do have a reasonable suspicion or probable cause to actually make that stop. Now, let's just say that you feel that it was disingenuous. You feel like it was not a proper stop. What I try to tell people is that everybody has one goal, and that's to get home safely. That's what I tell my boys. I tell everybody, you have one goal, and that's to get home safely. And so sometimes it's not the best moment to engage an officer with conflict, even if he's bringing that conflict to you. And I know a lot of the issue is that sometimes in the black community we may have not been doing anything wrong, and we've still been treated wrongly. Right. And there's no excuse for bad policing. I think that those officers need to be dealt with. I also encourage citizens to continue to record these officers who are doing bad jobs. Now, that being said, every officer is not doing a bad job. Some officers are actually doing something because you actually did run a stop sign and you actually needed to get pulled over. So I think that from the standpoint of just educating each person, educating our community and educating officers so that we can realize that at the end of the day, you need police, right? Because if you didn't need the police, well, let's say it like this: a lot of people don't like the police until they need them. Let's say it like that.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So
right.
We need the police in our communities. If not, we need to police it ourselves. And I know that for a fact that most people don't have that desire to run the drug dealer out of their own neighborhood. They won't be able to do that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, Dennis, let me ask you this then. We've been talking about mentors earlier. What efforts or initiatives that police are making to gain the confidence of the community and serve as mentors?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm going to tell you that I do believe that there needs to be a fixing of the public trust. I mean, officers, police departments need to do a better job trying to regain public trust from the citizens. Now, each department has its own programs and things like that they're going out trying to do. I think that it boils down to the individual officer, though. It boils all the way down to him in his community. He has to get out his car. He has to talk to people and treat people properly. If you treat people right, typically, I mean, in the neighborhoods that you police, they'll treat you right. They'll tell you what's going on before anybody else will. But a lot of officers, again, let me tell you, these officers are coming from everywhere. They're coming from everywhere. Some of them have never been around black people. I'm telling you, and I'm being honest with you. Some have never engaged.
So they may be afraid themselves. So they may be afraid themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean the media doesn't help. The way that we are portrayed in media doesn't help, because all of that goes on in the psyche of that officer. So yeah, for sure, that officer may have fear himself. He may have just answered a call that had his adrenaline really high, and then encountered somebody that didn't really require that level of aggression, and he still may be way up there and handle the situation wrongly. So it's a lot of factors. It really is a lot of factors, but it boils down to that individual officer. He has to get out his car. He has to have a desire to really help the community versus hurt.
Okay, we got a question for you, Dennis. We got a question for you.
Let me ask a question.
Go ahead.
We have one of our viewers that asked a question about officers, and you did make the comment that there are some officers who don't do what they need to do in the community, and they get out, and you encourage people to record. But there have been situations where people try to record, but the officers get more hostile. I'm not trying to make a negative environment, but how do people handle that in situations such as that?
Okay.
I know we're talking about the youth, but even with young people, I saw a video that happened on Facebook a couple of years ago that went viral. I think it was in McKinney, where
Oh.
this young man was taken down and this young lady that ended up
At
being
the swimming pool,
a
they were
victim at
the
a pool
pool.
party. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
in that situation, you had youth who were trying to record the situation because the officer pulled a gun out on all of those children. So
Right.
what do you do in that case if you're a youth? You know, and I've seen it both sides. I've been an administrator for years, and I've seen situations where young men and young women were totally out of control. And I've even seen a couple tased and pepper sprayed because they were totally out of control. Then I've seen situations where people have not done anything and officers have come in. I know the conversation is about youth, but how do youth handle a situation where something's going on, people are being compliant, but yet the police officers are acting very belligerent against the people who are in the area? So what would be your advice to youth on how to handle a situation like that? You said to record, and the officers are saying not to record, but they're being so hostile to the youth or the people who are in the area. So what do they do?
Right, so that's a good question, and I always want to hope that we can create balance in this this dialogue. Number one, if you're adding to the chaos, that's always bad. Just think of it like that. If you're adding to chaos, that's bad. So if you're a citizen with a phone and a camera, you want to record, which I encourage you to do, as long as you're not adding to the chaos of the situation. Now, here's the balance to that. So let's say that the officer, according to your question or your statement, is being belligerent. I'm going to tell you the way I was taught, even as a kid. You know, my grandfather told me that a fight, my job was to go the other way. If they ever there fighting, don't go into that. So me personally, I'm going to teach my kids to make sure that if you see chaos, you go the other way. You know, you don't necessarily have to save the day. Mom and daddy love you more than anybody out there on the street, so I want you to come home. So a lot of times, because of everybody now has a phone and they are empowered now, but if you're adding to the chaos, that's bad. At the end of the day, if it's a belligerent officer, he's going crazy. He's doing a whole bunch of stuff. He's out of his. He could be having a mental crisis right then. He could be in a bad state. I'm going to teach my kids, you go the other way, and you don't be a part of that drama. Now, if they've already the youth, and I'm trying to create balance in the dialogue here, if they've already encountered that kid and they want him to sit down, or they're not treating him right, or they're doing something that they shouldn't do, again, there's a proper time, I think, to fight. Now, I'm going to tell you that I'm not saying that it's natural for you to just comply when you know you haven't done anything wrong. I realize that. However, I think sometimes the better place to fight that is filing complaints and things like that. And I know that's not the most popular answer, but again, I'm talking about making sure that me and mine come home.
Okay, very good. We do appreciate you calling, Officer
Dotson.
Thank you so very much for your input. It's been valuable
was great, yeah.
for us to hear some things, because things are happening to our youth, and we want to protect our youth. And that's what this show is about. What do we need to do to empower and protect our youth? So we're going to have to go to a break. We're going to take about a 5-minute break, and we hope that our listeners will come back and listen to us again as we come back for the conversation.
The conversation. Thank you, Dottie Nation.
All right, we're back with the Conversation Radio Show, and we have two wonderful guests here, David Johnson and Charlene Barrows from Community Step Up Program, and we're so happy to have them here at the table, breaking bread, having some solutions and some programs to help our youth.
Thank you for coming.
All right.
Thank you for coming.
Right, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Simone.
I was thinking over the break, I was looking at some of the comments. Keandria? Is that her name?
Keandria, yeah.
Keandria made a great point. She said, this is really informative, and within my organization, Real Love Cause, Inc. We're working on programs that will provide mentorship for youth and adults. Good topic. Thank you so very much, Ms. Walker, for tuning in.
Yes.
And we want our callers at 972-882-6146. 972-882-6146. Call in and talk about some supports. We know that Mr. Johnson and Ms. Barris have been talking about the programs that we can empower you. So call in and give us some details on if you have a nonprofit, if you know of an organization, and some ways that we can all work together to support our youth. Okay.
I basically going back to the old school days, and I like what Mr. Johnson said about the Johnson, right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Johnson said, Brother Johnson said about, we got to kind of talk their language now, and I never thought about that, of course we didn't, at my time we couldn't talk the language of our of people that were over us. We kind of just basically, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, and that was the end of that, But I feel what you're saying. I like that because these youngsters will listen to you more if they know you can relate, or you speak their language. You don't have to do the cursing, but sometimes you can just say, yeah, baby, I know what you're saying. I feel you, baby. They understand that flow, whereas if everything is sir, 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 this, they gonna, as soon as you walk off, that type of deal. Can I say this? I hope I don't step on nobody's step. I hope I'll be all right.
You have some help tonight.
Yeah, great.
The only guy in the room now.
Something happened to me this weekend, and while I was cooking, Lady G. I won't call names because these are family members, but I had two youths in front of me, one 13 and one 21. And I basically showed them how to rinse meat off, how to season it, everything I did to it to make them take this product and roll with it because it's a good product. In the barbecue deal, I showed them how to pull the coals, open the bags, pull the coals in the deal, and how to strike the match. They didn't even know how to strike the match on the box. They're like, I ain't never struck a match.
Wow.
And she's from the strike it going this way. And I said, no, just bring it to you later. So after I did all of that, taught them how to clean the grill. Once the grill get hot, take the onion. I cut the onion in half. And then a Spanish told me how to, don't ever try to scrub your grill because there's so much stuff on there. You don't want to do that. You want to leave your grill seasoned. Just take the onion. It kills all germs.
Oh, wow.
So I'm showing them all of that. One of them, stepfather, he came out the house and he was teasing them behind my back, and I almost got offended, like I had him in boot camp or something. And I could see them laughing and like, all right, like whatever. But he's behind me, I can't see him. So God just said it's only one day. Just let it ride.
Yeah.
Because I'm not used to letting it ride. You understand what I'm saying? So I said, okay, God, you say let it ride, I'm let it ride. But I can feel him doing it behind me saying, got y'all in training, and he's making a joke out of it. But man, I take this thing serious.
Right, and that's a positive thing.
Yeah, you playing around, and this is your daughter, you're not teaching her nothing, She's striking a match this way at 13, And y'all never lit a grill before? You never even put season of meat? Something wrong with that picture.
Yeah.
So for you making jokes, I was very offended. So I'm just saying, you got those uncles and this uncle or this aunt is trying to teach the nieces and nephews to Girl, get in there and you don't want to walk out of the house looking like that. And the other aunt is saying, well, she don't know what she's talking about, you know. And I think we got to work together. First of all, we got to work together on, like he said, the village. Man, we got to be on one accord. But it seems like we just so divided now. Goodness.
Let me say just a real quick comment
Yes.
to what you're saying. That we see that division specifically nowadays. You know, at one time, even in our village, there were those that didn't agree with what one of the adults was saying, but you never knew they didn't agree.
Absolutely.
You know? But
Absolutely.
today, it's a whole different mindset. And so those of us who are delivering a positive message just got to stay with the positive message.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and we got to stand strong.
No doubt.
We got to stand strong. You know, we can't be offended because, you know, if I'm doing it so they can learn something, but if I'm doing it to please a person that understands, then I missed the mark. You know, as long as he ain't when I say bother me, he ain't talking about putting his hands on me.
No doubt.
You can say whatever you need to say. You know, I guess what? I guarantee you, even though you said that, your kids know how to clean their grill off
There
with
you
that
go.
onion.
I got
That's the purpose of me doing this, to
That's
show
right.
them. So we have to stay focused on what we do. And there's a lot of times that people don't understand what we're doing. It's not that they don't understand, they don't know. Just like we talk about the kids, they don't know. So it's funny and make fun of it. It's like, you know, but we got to stay focused.
Gotta stay focused.
But you
And
Bottom line.
I'd like to add, we talked about million man mentors or million mentors. We mentor within our own families.
Right.
We
Yeah.
just don't call it that.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so maybe we look and we see a little baby in our own family who needs some extra help,
Yeah.
and we decide we're going to be the one to spend some time with them maybe once a month. Teach them some
No
things
doubt.
that they're not
No doubt.
learning at home. So a mentor doesn't always have to come from outside.
You know, let them call you overbearing. Let them call you, you know, you need to get your business in mind or mind your own business. Those are good insults. That means there's some involvement taking place.
Yeah.
You know, those are really good insults, man. You got to be ready for that.
And I think too, we need to be positive role models to our youth. That's very important in their upbringing, and it makes them to find young adults. And and I have within my own family, I have cousins that are younger than me, and I can relate to them, and I can speak their language like we're talking about tonight. So I just think just being that positive role model in their lives, and even if they're maybe not as close to their parent. They know I can call on auntie, or I know I can call my cousin and talk with her, and and just tell her what I'm going through and what I'm feeling, So I just think we need to make sure that we are positive, in our youth lives.
I think it's very critical that we do some active listening to the youth. It is really scary what's going on with them. I remember sitting in a staff meeting at the beginning of the school year, August. And I remember our counselor saying that children, just young as the ones that are in first and second grade, are having depression, having suicidal thoughts.
They are.
And it's a really scary thing because sometimes you don't know what's going on with them. And now, since I've been working with children for the last 17 years, I'm telling you, the children are totally different.
Yes.
And I'm sure with Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Barrows, Dr. Simone, Epic, not to say OB and Lady G, not that you don't know, but what I'm really finding is a lot of children are coming in with a lot of behavior issues. I mean, so bad is, you have to call people in, you have to call the counselor, you have to call the behavior resource specialist, and you refer them different places. I don't know what's going on right now, but it's not good for the younger children. And even when I used to work as a child protective service investigator when I first got here, I remember interviewing a young girl, and it was something dealing with home, but I noticed she had cuts across her wrist, and I asked her what was going on. This child was in the 6th grade. And it is very important, and I'm not a parent, but I'm an educator, and I know we really need to be aware of just things that's going on with the kids. You know, if they're quiet, if they're acting different. You know, if they're angry, they sad, they mad, or sick. You know, just different things that may be going on in the home that you may not know, and they may feel comfortable with us to share that information. And like I tell all my coworkers at work, school should be the safest place they should want to come to. It should be a place where they feel comfortable enough to come talk to, hey, Mr. Johnson, I'm not feeling good. I didn't eat last night. We should be mindful and be aware. Of course, we go to work with problems, especially the ones that work with children every day. We have our own issues, but we just need to be sensitive to whatever these children are going through. Because the kids we have right now in my classroom, we must be doing something really great because they don't ever want to leave our classroom. So you want to show them much love. And you guys know I work in special education, so we show much love. You can do it. Yes, you can. We can do it together. Let me show you how to do it. You're smart. Oh, no, don't say you're dumb. You just learn differently. Let me show you how to do it. And it's always positive encouragement or just verbal praise for them to let them know, okay, yes, I can do this. I can do this.
I agree with you, Cousin Mays. We call it Cousin Mays because it's supposed to be Mays, but we heard me saying cousin, we just cannot talk about it. I agree with what you're saying, Cousin Mays, and it's something like Ms. Barris talked about earlier about the social emotional learning. You know, the effective.
Yeah.
We get away from that sometimes, and for years I've told educators, I've told teachers, if you cannot build relationships with children, or with youth, or whatever you want, children and your students, if you cannot build relationships, really take a crucial look at why you're in the field.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Because I even got to a point at one of my old schools, the first school I ever had was an elementary school, and I remember teachers were complaining about things that the kids were doing. And I got to a point, I put them on the bus and I took them somewhere that a school that if you looked at the outside community, it was just like, wow, they live here. But inside the building, it was a safe haven. And I went back to our school and I say, now what's our excuse? Okay, I don't want to hear any complaints about a child this, a child that. Either you need to have a change of heart or really have a change of location.
Yeah.
Because if we don't treat children like
Absolutely.
our own children, if we don't treat children like our nieces and nephews or godchildren, we need to not be educators. And I really, truly, staunchly believe what I'm saying. Because I tell people all the time, and I've told educators over the years, I mean, I don't have to do this now, but years ago, I would tell them, I said, if we don't do what we need to do to build relationships with children, we're going to see one or two things happen. When we get old, and we're stretched out in bed, and we may be in a nursing home or in a hospital, and we need someone to wipe our brows.
Yeah.
Okay? Our brow. Okay? We need someone to wipe our brow. They're going to do one or two things. They're going to look at me and they say, oh, I remember you. You were my teacher. They're going to do one or two things. They're going to wipe your brow, or I tell somebody they're going to get the hell out of you. You know, because if you don't treat them right, this is what comes back. So I think that building relationships is the part of it, and accepting children for who they are and where they come from. I heard you say you grew up in projects. My mother said, quit telling this story, you know you were in projects. But anyway, Southeast Arkansas Housing Projects. Between my mother's home and my grandma's home. You know,
I remember that.
School, and everybody thought we were rich over there. For some reason, Marvin, I don't know. But between the two neighborhoods, you know, I walked between each one of those neighborhoods. And it was the teachers we know. We go back to home. We're all from the same hometown.
Miss Clemens.
We go back to home, and if you think about those teachers who didn't care where you lived, what your address was, what street you lived on, what side of town you lived on, and they really cared about you. We talked about Miss Collins, we talked about Miss Hans, Miss Clemens, we talked about my preschool teachers. If you don't do that and make a difference in children, that's when you'll start seeing some changes. It starts one by one. Just one by one by one by one. And then it's the power of one and connecting with another, and it makes a difference in the lives of children.
Yes,
so
it
I'm
does.
just a staunch believer. I'm a believer that we have to build relationships. This old stuff, the social emotional learning, let's go. Let's have a a relationship with this child where this child can trust me.
Right.
And I'm so glad you said that, Maze, about school being a safe haven.
Yeah.
Because if it's not,
Yeah.
where else do they have? You know, if they come from homes that they aren't provided for that. Not because mom and dad don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It may be they don't know how to.
True that. True that. I like to add too, which you said, and you, Cousin Mays too. Me personally, I think the fraternities and sororities, when I was in high school, like the 8th grade, the Omega Psi Phi, they got kicked off of campus for hazing too bad. So one of the guys that ran, named Broadnax, he ran the youth home for bad kids called ARC. You remember ARC?
I remember the art.
Well, Broadnax used to teach. All my buddies went to die with me. They lived in the ARC, but I didn't know they was. I used to wonder, you live in the ARC? What is the ARC? So they had me to come by. It's like a little dormitory for kids that got into it with their parents and was kicked out of school. And I'm like, how you stay? I ain't never heard of that.
Over on 13th Street.
That's right.
I
And
remember
so
that.
I would ride my bike over there, and Bronex was a Q dog, well-known Q dog. He would teach us all the Q dog steps in the downtime. And they would tell me, man, come on over here, you be a Q dog. I'm like, you can't be no Q dog, you ain't in school. But Bronex was Bronex was in his fun time. He just teaches all the steps. We learned them like it was. So what happened was.
The executive, I have to stop you, Obi. The executives, is that what it is?
Well, no, not the executive. I'm gonna get to that. I got that in there. I'm gonna get that for you.
Okay.
So what happened? The Qs got kicked off campus. So what they did was they let us step in the Greek show in replace of them,
Oh. Cool.
and we won. So we stepped against apples,
Wow.
campus, everything, and the other Greeks got offended because we stepped that good. He called us like that next Monday, Tuesday. He saw us. Man, we can't do it. We had Omega. We was called Omega Pups. The big horseshoe right here with pups on it. But we were in training to be Q dogs. You know, that got you motivated.
Right.
So they canceled that. The next thing they came up with was the senior executives at Pilot Fire. I was president of the senior executives. They were more structured off the Kappas. Real cool guys, briefcase, Jerry curl sweaters, leather jacket. And we I mean, it's about 20, 30 of us. And, man, we had parties all over town. Very respectable. So my point I'm trying to make, I think sororities and fraternities could step up their game in the youth. Because those some nice ladies, you know, grown up Deltas, AKs, you're teaching them something, you know, how to be an upstanding lady. You can't wear that to school. You can be an AKA. You can't.
Well, in defense about Kappa Alpha, I know there are some.
They still do.
Yeah, no doubt.
They still do.
No doubt.
Yeah.
All the women organizations.
I guess what I'm saying is
I know.
to say that, no, you're right about what, I know y'all do a lot, but to bring up young AKs in high school, young Deltas, training them before they even get to college is what I'm saying, you know, doing stuff with them and on summertime, you know, teaching them in little steps and this and that. You ain't got to be all of them, but just give them something to, because that's a high quality standard in a woman, to be a Delta, AKA, Zeta, that type of deal, and Kappa Q. They like that kind of stuff. It's something positive, you know, till they get to hazing and all that kind of stuff, you know. But that's my intake on trying to, you know, reach. They can reach the youth.
Do we have a call?
Was that a call?
Do we have a call?
Okay, I have one comment kind of
Yes.
always say, because when we're talking about speaking their language, you know, it's not always a verbal language. You know, I know that when I came up, my biggest fear was my daddy coming home.
No doubt.
See, I wasn't worried about the police. I wasn't worried about the bullies in my community. I wasn't worried about my neighbors. Although they were a part of that, my biggest fear was my daddy coming home knowing what I done done. Right? So when we start talking about our kids today, things in our community have become so divided now that there are so many fears there. Fear of the police, fear of the bullies, fear of the drug dealers, fear of this, fear of the teachers, you know, all these fears. So when we talk about their language, we got to understand what they're afraid of. Saying that, saying that if we're really going to be effective with these kids, we got to put something in place. We can't. It's so country wide. It's no longer in a community. You know, you just could say, don't go to that community, don't go here, don't go there. You know, today is like, don't go out the house.
That's right.
You know, don't go across the street. What we have to do is begin somewhere.
That's right.
If each one of us in whatever fields we in, we got one community and started off in 4 blocks and started right in that 4 blocks and got a core group there and moved outside that block. Or we have somebody else somewhere else, they start a group outside that block. We bring these kids together so that they start their own community. When we start talking about how we make a change, that's how we're going to make a change. We're not going to make a change sitting here talking. We've got to get out there, roll up our sleeves, and let's do some work with our kids, right?
That's right.
And if we're going to do that, everybody here has some special interest that sparks them, and we brought all that together. Police officer just came up. We had a community where the policeman came out of their car, he had to get out of his car. No, he was walking down the beat and he seen you. You know, you know him. Oh man, I was even. I know our officer name was Greg Coleman. I ain't gonna never forget him, right? Officer Coleman. Everybody knew him. You know, Officer Coleman. You might do your little kid stuff, but when you see an officer coming, you straighten it up.
No doubt.
But today, police can walk down there. Whatever they doing, they continue to do because there's no respect there. But we got to start with a core group and move out. And the reason I say that is that I was in New York City when, I was in Buffalo, coming out of Toronto into Buffalo when 911 happened. And so as I got on I-90, they stopped the whole state.
Wow.
When I say stop, they said pull over on the highway. Everybody stopped until they found out what was going on. Now you tell me we can't do that in our communities? You stop the state of New York? You know, everybody pull over, stop your cars, don't move. Until we know what's going on down in New York City, and I'm up in Buffalo.
Yeah.
You know, so if we really wanted to have an impact and make a difference, let's start doing some things. Let's stop some stuff right in this path, right here, until we can move out and find out what's going on, and then we grow from there. And we can do it in 2 or 3 different communities if we're going to have an impact. But if we're just going to do what quote I've done so long, and everybody else has done so long, we sit down and we talk about and we discuss the issues. You know, we'll be talking about this. No, our grandkids will be talking about this, right? For those of us who we raised a certain way, they'll be sitting here next time on the conversation talking about the issues that we're talking about today. You know, and so that's just my thing is I'm hearing a lot of good stuff. But like most things, that don't come outside these rooms. You know, I like to see some of this come outside these rooms. Let's get that officer. Let's call to action. Let's get that million man. To get a million man, we gotta get 10 first. Right. Let's get 10. Let's get 10 men first. Let's get 10 men first. Get 10 kids, 10 young men, 10 women, 10 young ladies. Let's teach them how to interact with each other in an appropriate manner, age appropriate, and then we can go from there. But to say million man mentor sound excellent, but it don't sound like nothing. We only had 10. Yeah. What the word said, well, find me 5 good men then. Right. You know. Right. You know. So that's why it's difficult to find those ones that's going to do it. Everybody said, Dave, you just so aggressive. Maybe it's the New York in me. It's something about me that when I say I want to do something in Charlotte, they always get on me. It's like, Dave, just slow down, son, man. You're gonna have a stroke. You're gonna have a heart attack, man. I'm like, no, let's do this. Let's do. You know, I'm a proactive person, and so I'm hearing a lot of good things here, and I'm hoping coming out of this here that we start. We got 3 men right here. There goes the 3-man march. You know, I'm serious.
No doubt.
3.
Yes.
That's good.
Mr. Johnson, I've been in the barbershop world for 28 years. 28 years.
I knew they had a barber in here somewhere.
Yeah. And I know all the I feel barbers is that melting pot of shit. Who's this? Epic. Give it the Epic though.
Epic.
That's
Teresa.
That's Teresa.
Yeah.
How you doing, Miss Teresa? How you doing? Welcome to the conversation. will you state your name and please just share with us tonight as we discussed areas and concerns regarding our youth today. If you can openly share with us today.
Oh, yes. Hi. Again, like I said, my name is Teresa, mother of 4 daughters, a single parent.
Okay.
And, you know, as a young mother, starting out, raising children is hard. But if you were instilled as a child growing up, your foundation on life as a parent, you take the bitter with the sweet, and you raise your children, and you instill in them, just because you're a single parent, that doesn't mean that you're beneath anyone. Education is important. And as a single mother, I have 4 daughters. My kids all graduated high school, college, and none of them had children before graduating high school. And they all are married except for my baby. So, you know, it's hard, but it's all about groundwork with your children, being a parent,
That's right.
being involved in your kid's life. You can't expect someone else to raise your children. You have to do the job yourself.
I think I did a good job.
Huh?
I think I did a good job.
Yeah.
I know her daughters. Yeah, very well.
And my daughter now is 16. She's already college courses. So it's all about being a good parent and instilling your children morals and goals in life. You know, the best way to go is depend on self. Help is great, but if you're dedicated to what you're trying to do, you can be successful.
That's right. We want to thank you for sharing it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That insight is very, very, very good for parenting, is particularly single parents and the sacrifices that they make. So it's good. Thank you.
Can I read a comment? Belinda Clayton said, exactly right. I am not an educator. Let's be real. Some of this is just treating children that's not yours like you would want others to treat your children and young adults. They need a comfort zone. All children do, and young adults and teens. All right. Yeah, Belinda.
But Belinda, let me ask you something here. I know you can hear me. What if that comfort zone is like what the Bible says, that wide road that leads to destruction? And they need to be on more of a narrow road that would kind of inconvenience them temporarily, but it will lead to life. So, you know, I think in everything we can do, we got to have some form of balance. That's why I heard Brother Johnson say earlier about, you know, men sometimes being that disciplinarian and other women being a nurturer, or it could be vice versa. It don't matter, but we need to find some level of balance out there because, man, that wide road could be killing us. That comfort land.
That wide road is okay if we have a system within the system. So we don't have, in our community, we don't have a system. You know, if you go to any other culture, you'll find if a Jewish guy go to the criminal justice systems, they go with a Jewish lawyer. If a guy from India go in there, they have their own system within the system.
Right,
and we don't have, as a people of color, we don't have a system within the system. And those tools and few of us who have gotten to that point of, quote, part of that system are part of that system and have not come together and brought a system to make that wider road okay to be in, because we got some shelter around you to be on that wider road. See, all them other kids, I'm used to listen to some of my friends in some of the communities, and they was like, man, we got drunk last night, and Officer Doobie stopped us, he escorted me home. Escorted me home? You know, a system within the system.
Yeah.
right? And that's what we got to do, even for our kids who kind of get off track, is to have that system that also embraces them in their times of trials. But that's crucial that even as we're talking about working with our kids, that we develop a system within our system.
It's good that you're saying that because we already have a system in the system, but it doesn't work within for us. There already is an institutionalized system against us within the system. That's why we need to switch roads to that narrow
A
road.
positive system within the system.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I want to add to this, I think wherever we got, when we started getting good jobs, we started to move out of, some of us started to move out of the neighborhoods that we grew up in across town. So I think that put a dividing between us family members, like your cousin that moved over on, like y'all lived over on where people thought you was rich. Probably was rich.
Let me find out, Dr. Simone.
But when you went over to her neighborhood, it was like everything by Prince of Bel Air. All the blacks had nice homes. It wasn't just one black family here sitting here in Brownsville. Every street was all black people, and they had nice homes. And so, when you roll through there, you're like, man, they doing it over here. Mama, how come we don't live over here? You know, but I think that put a dividing in our community too, against where there's no tight unity no more. You know, that store on the corner that closed down because you had 70 kids here at one time running back and forth, swinging those screen door hanging off. Yeah, and now you done got 40 of them that moved across town.
Yeah.
They can't make it anymore. So,
one of the things, and I want to share a story before I even say this, and when we start talking about our kids, because we're kind of winding down, and I do want to make a statement around where we're going with Community Step Up today. For 5 years in New York, I had a team of Indian doctors. They would say one day out of the year, they said, Dave, find a venue, and we're going to come in and we're going to turn it into a clinic. And they did one day medical examinations, referrals, everything, one day free for everybody that came. The last one we done, there was a little guy from India and a little black guy were playing with a toy. And they got to arguing about the toy, yada yada. The moms came over. Everything was peaceful. The black mom said, "You go over there and sit down and wait and sit down for a minute. And I'm gonna bring you something to eat." And very appropriate. He went over there, mannerable, sit down, wait for his mom to bring him something to eat. The Indian lady squatted down, looked her son dead in the eye, and said, "When you become a doctor, you can have anything you want. Now, what I need you to do is go over there to the registration and see how they are doing registration." So they start teaching them from a child up and instilling that in them. So, that's what we're going with Community Step Up. I was telling them that, like the first of the year, we're going to begin to look at a component of it where we start reading to our kids and getting them involved from probably kindergarten back. We need to start reaching those kids. So if we start talking about make some changes, we got to begin them there. And we got to instill it within them to want to do something different. So then when we get to the third graders, 3 to 5, 6 through 9, 10 through 12, when they get to that point, we keep coming up, as long as there's money there, government money and all that money, we have excellent programs. The minute the money's gone, the program's gone, so the kid is left hanging there.
Yeah.
But until we have our own programs, like with Community Step Up, we try to stay as far away from government money as we can. We try to become self-sufficient so that each child, we'll ask a mentor, if there's anybody in the sound of my voice that's willing to pay for a child to go through, corporations out there, people who want to donate money and sponsor a child, for $50 for 8 weeks. All right, 58 weeks, and at the end of, I would say we try to keep them in there as long as possible, because over a period of time, as we talk, especially to the older ones, we help them get jobs. We start looking for jobs for them, and they can put back and sponsor a kid. What we're trying to do is create a community where they're comfortable with each other with all ages. So if we're going to make a difference and have an impact on our kids, we got to begin at the bottom. We got to begin with the little ones, the ones that can't read. We start putting something in their spirit. We start feeding them something so that we don't have, they say this generation Z is, everything is about me. It's not about you. So what happens is our kids think all coming through whatever, it's all about me. And then all of a sudden they get to a certain age, and for our young African American men, it's usually around the 9th grade, they found out it ain't about you, so they drop out of school.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And so we got to start instilling in them early. So programs such as ours or other programs who are beginning to work with the kids at a younger age to instill something in them, building self-respect, building self-esteem. I remember working with a young lady, and this lady, she had graduated from high school, did not know her ABCs. Wow. Could not count, right? And so when we started working with her, and this wasn't through Community Step Up, this was somewhere else, but it took a while to get her to that point because she had been so physically abused and mentally abused, right? But over a period of time of we're talking about creating a community where a child feels encouraged to learn, encouraged and motivated to do some things, encouraged to try some things different. We don't promote that, and it comes from different ways. We can do a lot with them, but if we say it, if they go back into their home, if the home environment is not conducive to what we're doing with them, if the school is not conducive, if you go in most communities, it's funny because we were talking about the police, right? But if you go in, what is that, Highland Park, I guarantee you're going to see the same police sitting on the same corner. Because that is a community.
That's right. I've been there.
I drive through there all the time, boy, and I'll be like, he's still sitting back there giving people tickets, right, for going 2 miles over the speed limit. The whole community embraces that, and that's what we got to start doing in our communities, embracing it in small pockets, because that's what they're doing. Ride through there, ride through. You can go through a couple of little hood areas, you know what I'm saying, and then you go through another one. There's a pocket of them sitting there, and those of us who drive regular know I better slow down in this one. You know, and so they need to know that in our community too. I know that I can't abuse them kids in there. I know that I have to bring something. So with Community Step Up, what we're doing now is we're looking at how to actually deal with the different, quote, as they've labeled them, generations, the millennials, the Generation Zs. Each one of them has a way of learning, and they have their own language. And when we learn their language, we'll be more effective and have an impact on them.
That's right.
So last point is that Community Step Up. To contact us, we have you can get us at stepupdallas.org, or our phone number that you can reach somebody is area code 513-532-4347. My name is Dave Johnson. Charlene Burrows. You can get either one of us at Community Step Up. We are on.
Will you say that number one more time?
Area code 513-532-4347. We have our website is communitystep-up.org. It is a new one. We just got it revised. We're still putting a lot of things on it, but there is contact information on there. But we're looking for mentors that we talked about earlier. We're looking for sponsors for kids, both corporate and single individuals. We're looking for people to come out and be trained to do the groups in their community if they just want to get trained. And let's start a community step up program right there in your community so that you can start working with your children in that community. And what we really want to do is once we get it started in different communities, we want to have competition with the kids speaking against each other. Let's get them involved. Thank you.
Awesome.
I'll go ahead and give my contact information as well. If you need to contact me, I'm Charlene Burrows. My number is 214-729-0914. And I'll be glad to talk with you about Community Step Up and what it is we can do to help you in your community and the children in your community grow and gain confidence.
Well, is that it? Is
Do
that
you
it?
have
Okay,
any
well, we're going to
announcements?
wrap this up. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and give out some of our weekly announcements. We thank you guys for tuning in tonight with the conversation here. We're here every Monday from 6 to 8, and we thank you guys for tuning in with us. Also on Tuesday night, we have the Black of the Berry, and that's from 8 to 10 p.m. On Wednesdays, we have a man's and a woman's point of view from 8 to 10. And that is over at the Brick House Lounge in Arlington. On Thursdays, we have Sports Rehab, and that's at 8:30 to 10 p.m. And Saturday, we had Adventures of a Fat Girl, and that is from 12 to 2. And also this Thursday, November 30th at 7 p.m., we are joining with HighVibe and Brick House Supper Club as we break bread together at the Sankofa Kitchen. And that's located at 3333 West Camp Wisdom here in Dallas, Texas. And we just thank you guys. And if you're interested in hosting your own show or advertising your business, events, or products on our network, please reach out to us at 817-680-0782. Again, that's 817-680-0782. And again, we thank you for joining in here with us with the conversation here at HighVibe. And we're going to say good night here at the conversation.
Yes. Before we say goodnight, can I ask you a question?
Oh, you sure can.
Lady G, did you used to be an announcer at a Baptist church or anything like that? You did that so smooth.
Yeah, those minutes.
Another church announcement.
BTU.
You better watch that Baptist.
Okay, well, Kojic Baptist.
No, not at all.
You
not
got
at
that
all.
thing down, man. I was waiting to hear about the secret shut-in. Okay. We thank y'all for joining us tonight with the conversation. We thank the HighVibe for definitely hosting us as well as always. I'm here with Dr. Simone, Lady G, Mr. Epic, and Cousin Mays. Cousin Mays, I'm OB, of course. Our guests, Mr. Johnson and Miss Broyles. Broyles. I'm going to get it right by next time you come. We thank you definitely for having us. No doubt. Thank you for coming. Y'all had some great impact on what our topics was, and I can tell you've been in the fields for a long time. You seasoned, in this deal. So Dallas needs you bad, the whole Metroplex, and around the world as well, and you too, Miss Burns, as well. Y'all a team together. I'm just sitting here looking at you and watch you speak. I'm like, he didn't walk the walk.
Yeah.
He walked
You can
the
tell
walk.
he has that passion.
Yeah,
passion
and that's
for our
you
youth,
really want it.
for our
And
kids.
there's some people around here that's planning to join on, which even myself. I didn't even write it down because I know my wife, she done recorded everything. So I get all those numbers, and maybe me and Mr. Epic will come by or just go with you. Anything I can do to help, with the youth, because I'm one of those that could have went so many different ways, man. If it wasn't for, I tell people I'm the subtotal of everybody I've ever met.
Everyone for the Lord be it on my side.
Come on now. Come on now.
I know the feeling. Yes.
So I definitely, if I could just help one, so I'm definitely interested in helping you and come and checking out, see what I need to do. So we'll talk soon. So anybody else have anything like that?
And we want to thank you guys for joining us, and see us next time on The Conversation.
The conversation.
That conversation.
And the conversation.
All right, out
The
of here.
conversation.